Though there were many battles in World War II, I believe the most important of these battles was the invasion of D-Day. With the invasion of D-Day, it essentially marked the beginning of the end of World War II. With the success of this invasion, the Allied powers could begin to retake France and push into Germany. Besides the strategic importance of being this close to Germany, the invasion also proved a huge morale booster for the Allies and was a huge deficit to the morale of the German army. The reasons of which is because the Atlantic Wall that the Allies had broken through during the invasion was believed to be impenetrable. So, by the fact that they broke through a seemingly impenetrable barrier, the Allies had great morale, thinking they could be unstoppable, and the Germans had very low morale because one of their main defenses against an invasion of this type that they thought would never be broken was broken through within a day. The fighting in France also opened another front to the war. Previously, before the invasion happened, where the fighting was happening was through Italy and on the Soviet Union. Now, the Germans had enough men to hold down these two fronts, but once the Allies had broken through in Normandy, they had to begin pulling troops from the Soviet Union and bringing them over to reinforce the troops that had been defeated. When the Germans pulled the troops from the Soviet Union over to this front, it actually gave the Soviet Union an advantage over their now weakened enemy. While the Germans were en route to the new Western Front that was being fought on, they encountered significant difficulty with the air forces of the Allied powers. By this time of the war, the Allies had pretty much air superiority, and their scout planes could easily spot the incoming tanks and troops marching to this front. Now, once they were spotted, they could then their positions could be told to attack aircraft, who would then either weaken or destroy the incoming reinforcements. Since the Germans were weakened by the time they arrived to the front, the Allies could essentially use their numbers, basically, to break through any German defenses, and in the case that they faced a defense that they thought would take a long time to break through, they could use their vehicles, which were commonly a lot faster than that of the Axis powers, and just simply bypass and then surround any forces that they faced. With this fast style of advance, by essentially just overwhelming your opponent, the Allies actually managed to liberate Paris within 3 months of the invasion happening. Now, the Germans had lost a lot of troops trying to defend the area between Paris and the sea, and they had to resort to recruiting people who were either too young or too old to actually be soldiers. These men didn't really receive very adequate training, and often were just kind of thrown to the front. In addition to their poor training, they actually often didn't have many vehicles or weapons to equip these new troops with, and the Allies were facing a very different problem, whereas they actually didn't have enough weapons to arm the many French volunteers that were now joining the Allied forces who had liberated their country. Without the invasion of D-Day, the Soviet Union would not have been able to break through on the Eastern Front as fast as they did, because of the amount of German soldiers that were pulled out of the Eastern Front to reinforce the Western Front. Also, many troops were pulled out of the Italian Front to reinforce the Western Front, and when the Allies actually managed to take over Italy, Italian forces joined the cause of the Allies, which further overwhelmed the German forces. The books D-Day, June 6th, The Climactic Battle of World War II, The Battle for Normandy, and The Longest Day all support the idea that without the invasion of D-Day, World War II would have lasted for many more years because of the amount of German soldiers that were kind of displaced from their defenses in response to the invasion, which weakened the amount of German forces in any one point and allowed many of the Allied forces across Europe to break through. In conclusion, many people should think that D-Day was one of the most important battles of World War II.